Mother Teresa could not beat these charges. These charges are rigged. The whole thing is rigged.
Remind me again, Donald, when Mother Teresa paid off a porn star to cover up an affair? Trump sounds like a man who knows his fate rests in the hands of 12 jurors. And while there's nothing he can do to sway the jury, he and his allies are doing their best to prime the MAGA faithful for the verdict with an alternate universe of lies. In his courthouse comments, he lied about Judge Juan Marchand barring witnesses that his own lawyers decided not to call, and a host of other imagined grievances. He also wrote on his social media, "I don't even know what the charges are in this rigged case," literally moments after Judge Juan Marchand's jury instructions detailed the charges against him. Capping off a tear where he all caps screamed about a kangaroo court and claimed that he had no rights because of his gag order, never mind the fact that he could have testified in his own defense but didn't. And if this all seems familiar, it's a recreation of the constellation of election lies in the lead up to the January 6, 2021 insurrection. And Trump's lies are going straight from his mouth into MAGA veins, as evidenced by the signs I saw with my very own little eyes, parroting his claims outside the courthouse today. Joining me now is Tim O'Brien, Senior Executive Editor of Bloomberg Opinion and MSNBC political analyst. Always good to see you, Tim. One of the things that I did notice between the first time I went and this time is that there were actually people there. The first time there were no Trump supporters, there were no protesters. It wasn't a lot, but it seemed very coordinated because he tweeted some specific language. That language was on a sign.
They still haven't learned how to pronounce Justice Marchand's name, however. No. They were out there yelling, going, Merchant.
Yeah.
Merchant Marine.
How much do you think, I mean, having dealt with him and covered him for so long, how fearful do you think he is tonight?
I think everything he's doing, I think, indicates panic. You know, he's got nonsensical, capitalized truths. I guess I hate calling them truths, but, you know, post to his truth account.
Yeah.
And I think he feels cornered. I think he has for some time. Yeah. And as the trial wears along and the evidence creeps up, I think it puts him in a real corner. And I think he feels that, you know, I think perhaps he's been sleeping during some portions of court.
Times when he leans back and his eyes are closed.
And he closes his eyes. And I actually think he's in this like fugue state. And he's trying to pretend that what he's confronting in that courtroom doesn't exist. The same way a small child, if you tell a small child they've done something wrong and they stick their fingers in their ears and they say, yeah, that didn't happen. I think that's where he's at.
Fugue state. He tweeted, he did fundraising email saying, I could be in jail tomorrow. Okay. He's sort of freaking out. He's having his allies like J.D. Vance and Elise Stefanik investigate Judge Juan Marchand and all of that sort of stuff. But to me, between the irony of what he did to persecute the Central Park Five, he's now feeling what those 14 and 15-year-old boys were feeling, and he had no empathy for them. But he wants sympathy for feeling the same fear of whether it's going to be guilty or no guilty. And then the other one that I think is so ironic is that if he is convicted, there's a question of whether he could actually lose his right to vote in the state of Florida, where the current governor, Ron DeSantis, he gleefully strips black people of their right to vote and sends his election police after them. Well, my dear, orange is the new black.
That's right. You know, and that's DeSantis looking back to prior efforts to enfranchise people who have been incarcerated and allow them to vote.
Yeah.
And he's now undermined the person he's supporting in this election.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible that he would have to actually petition his former rival, who they went at it and fought. He would actually have to likely petition Governor DeSantis, who doesn't like giving people their right to vote, for him to be able to vote for himself in November.
Well, and I think that is probably the least front of mind thing for Donald Trump.
Oh, I'm sure.
I think what he's really focused on is the idea that he might lose his liberty.
Yeah.
And I didn't think going into this case that was necessarily going to be an outcome.
Sure.
And having sat there, I don't know if you went through this when you were sitting down there, but when you watch the prosecution methodically lay out an airtight case that is really, I think, sitting there irrefutable. Yeah. Whether or not it elevates to a felony, whether or not the jury believes that this, 34 what are currently misdemeanors become felonies because they were in the service of election interference.
Yeah.
I think that's still a wild card.
Yeah.
But if we get there, I think that Justice Marchand is going to be obviously a pivotal figure in all this.
And the thing is that the way that he did these jury instructions was fascinating in the sense that it gives jurors ways to compromise and convict on some and not on others. There's a possibility of split verdicts, of compromise verdicts, but it's very hard to get around the facts, which the defense really didn't refute.
And it's one of the many elegant and I think graceful aspects of the way that Justice Merchan has presided over this trial. His daughter has been attacked.
Yeah.
He's been attacked. The entire process in the court system has been attacked. He's an American success story.
Yes, he is.
He's an immigrant who is self-made, and he has sat in that courtroom and been very measured. I think only a couple times he's lost his patience. It's never risen to shouting, but he's gotten very upset a few times at Todd Blanche, who's a court jester, no pun intended. But throughout, I think Merchan has really been an exemplary person that most of us could try to latch onto as an idea about how to conduct oneself in the midst of chaos.
Indeed. It is fascinating that he comes originally from the same place as Judge Aileen Cannon, but they are very different jurists.
Very
very
different.
different. Tim O'Brien, my friend.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you very much.